I've been prepping for a really long time now, and in that time, I've spent a whole lot of money on preparedness gear. And if I'm being honest, I could probably live without most of these items. But if I lost everything tomorrow and if I had to start over from scratch, there are a few items that I would go out and buy again immediately. Not because they're the most important or fundamental, but because they've become the most useful items that I have. Let's start with the one purchase I think everyone should probably have before winter comes, and that's the buddy heater. Now, the buddy heaters are one of the few options that you actually have for indoor heating. There are some other things that you could use, but nothing is going to work like a buddy heater. These come in a few different sizes. I've got one of the smaller ones that will do just fine if I needed to heat up one room in my house. The biggest thing about these buddy heaters is for as much heat as they put off, they are indoor safe because of how efficiently they burn that fuel. They're portable. They've got safety features. So if you tip them over, they'll shut down, or if the oxygen gets low, they'll shut down. So in my opinion, that makes these much better than the kerosene heaters, and definitely better than the electric space heaters that will just take up way too much energy. Now, these do take propane, so you are going to have to store the little containers, or a bonus, which I'll get into here in a second. And you're not going to be able to heat your entire home with one of these buddy heaters. They're meant for a smaller place, like, going out camping in a tent or a bedroom in emergency preparedness situations. The bonus, though, however, you don't have to necessarily just rely on these small propane canisters. You can actually get an adapter that will hook it up to the larger canisters and run that cord through a window outside, or even just bring that large canister inside in an emergency. They also have the fuel keg kit, which you can refill some of these smaller 1-pound canisters and save a few bucks there if you use this a lot. Now, there are different types of, I think there's a Flame King one as well. And some people, you can even get a little adapter and they just refill your typical Coleman canisters. Although I don't know that I would necessarily do that because those canisters aren't built for that, but to each their own. So a lot of people have had success doing that. I have the fuel keg system though, and it works really well. Another item that I use all the time, not just, I bought it for emergencies, but I use it all the time, and that is a butane stove. These are, I've done a video on different types of emergency cooking, indoor emergency cooking options you have, but this is something that a lot of people overlook because they just think, hey, I've got my outdoor grill, or I can just open up some cans and not have to worry about cooking that at all. But it really is one of those things that we should think about. It's, yes, you can open those cans, but being able to cook meals, being able to boil water, purify water, are all going to be really important. These butane stoves are great because they light instantly. You've got the flame control, so you can decide how much fuel you need or how quickly you want to heat something up. They're extremely easy to use. I've got the Butane that is rated for indoor use. There are a couple of other brands, the gas ones, that are really popular. There's even one that's dual fuel, which is butane and propane, that you can use. It's not rated for indoors, but a lot of people have used them indoors without any issues whatsoever. So these, I think, there's a few different indoor cooking options, but these are a really one that you're going to use quite a bit. We use ours all the time, whether we have family over, we're doing fondue type things, or making s'mores. We use ours all the time. And in an emergency, with just storing a little bit of butane, you'll be able to use these and not have to worry about some of those other unsafe methods. Something else I use all the time too is which would be great in an emergency, is a DC refrigerator. Refrigeration is something that everybody thinks about. How am I going to keep my food cold in this emergency or that emergency? But people they underestimate how much energy it actually takes to run a full-size refrigerator. And along with that, at some point, you're not going to need that full-size refrigerator because a lot of that food in there after a day or two is going to be gone. There's only going to be a few things in there. And that's where maybe a DC refrigerator would be a better option. I've got a large Iceco and I've got a smaller Bogue RV DC refrigerator that would use a whole lot less energy and are really useful. My refrigerator I use as a freezer all year round, and in an emergency, I could change that to one side refrigerator, or just keep it a freezer and use my smaller one as a refrigerator. But the average refrigerator takes 1 to 2 kilowatts of energy per day to run. My backup refrigerator takes about 1.5 kilowatts per day to run. That is a whole lot of energy when you consider that a DC refrigerator takes about 250, maybe 300 watt hours a day. So that's a third of a kilowatt. Where my IceCo, it takes a little bit more than that because it's set to freeze, but that's only probably 600 watt hours per day. So these DC refrigerators are nice and portable. And like I said, I use mine all the time, whether it's going camping, on road trips, family gatherings, and even power outages. They're going to be useful in a lot of different situations. One of the biggest purchases I've made, and I don't regret it one bit, but it really depends on you and your situation, is the Harvest Right freeze dryer. I've got a small one, and it really changed the way that I do my food storage, because not only does it help with emergency food storage, but it also helps with everyday life. With my emergency food storage, I've got those foods that will last 20, 25 years when I freeze dry them. So I don't have to spend all that money on these prepackaged meals. We've got chicken, so we get a whole bunch of eggs, and I'm constantly freeze drying eggs. I like when I find large amounts of meat or vegetables on sale, I can freeze dry those, put them in Mylar bags, and those will be good for 20 years. So it is something that is one of the coolest things as far as preparedness goes and as far as food storage goes, because it really allows you to bulk up your food storage. And, some of these prepackaged meals, they don't taste the greatest, right? But if you do your own, you know exactly what's in them, and they are going to taste good. I've had eggs from Augustin Farms, and they were just nasty. They're just completely gross. The eggs I get from my chicken and I freeze dry them, they taste just like regular eggs. I do a lot of chicken and I do a lot of ground beef for my food storage, because those are two things that the family's never going to get sick of, right? So bottom line, is it worth the money? And I think if you're going to use it, it absolutely is worth the money. But if it's not something you're going to use, I don't think you should go out and spend the $1,500, $2,000 on one of these Harvest Rights. Mine has absolutely paid for itself because of how much I use it. If you're going to use it once a week, maybe a couple times a month, it's probably worth it. But if it's just going to sit there, maybe you can spend your money somewhere else. And that somewhere else may be my next one, which is a 3,000 plus watt hour power station. And the one that comes to mind with this, the one that I've had the most success with, is the Jackery 3600 Home Power. This size of a power station, it really is perfect when you're thinking about an emergency situation where the power is going to be out for a day or two. You can run just about anything with this. And at 3,000 watt hours, you really do have enough energy to get through a couple of days, even if you don't have the ability to recharge that with solar. I used to say that these 2,000 watt hour power stations were a really good size in preparedness, and they are. If you can't afford or you don't want the larger one, those 2,000 watt hour ones will work as well, but the larger ones are going to be a little bit better and going to last you a little bit longer. Those 1,000 watt power stations, the really small ones, those are great for doing things around the house. But for emergency preparedness reasons, I think that may be just a little bit too small unless you have a couple of those. But with the 3,000 watt hour power station, this lets you run that refrigerator for a couple hours a day, or maybe that DC refrigerator like we talked about. It lets you do those things and still have enough energy to maybe turn on the microwave for 5 minutes or so to heat something up, maybe run your coffee maker, a hot plate even. A lot of these take a lot of energy, but if you're only using it for 5 or 10 minutes to boil some water, you could do that with one of these larger power stations and not deplete it. I've tested a bunch of these different power stations over the years, the Jackeries, the EcoFlows, and the Anchors, and the AFREs. And this Jackery 3600 right here really is a nice size because of its portability. You can still move it around. The EcoFlow is it's got a few more watt hours, but it's a lot more difficult to move around. This Jackery really is nice and convenient. You can, move it upstairs or just, it's got the handle so you can tote it around your house. Really is a nice little power station. And it is a quality product, so it is going to last a very long time. Now, if a power station isn't something that you would want to get, another option would be just a regular Life PO4 battery and maybe a solar panel or two. Now, this isn't for everyone. Some people, it's absolutely the power station. That's the way to go. But if you like that modular design, if you're capable of figuring out these, it's all pretty simple, but if you're capable of figuring out, the wiring and how to hook up an inverter, this can save you a whole lot of money and a whole lot of energy, because those power stations, as easy and convenient as they are going to take a little bit more energy than a single Life PO4 battery would. Think about the DC refrigerator I talked about earlier. If you plug that refrigerator straight into this Life PO4 battery, it's running straight off that DC power. Whereas if you plug that into a power station, even if it's on DC, it still has to convert that 48 volts or whatever that power station is to 12 volts to go into that DC refrigerator. So you're going to lose energy right there. On a battery, you don't have those losses. Now, you would once you hook up an inverter if you need to, say, plug your refrigerator in, but there are a lot of different inverters as well. And, the smaller, the better as far as efficiency goes. But what this allows you to do is use a little bit less energy and also save a little bit of money, because if something does break down in, say, that one of those power stations, you're hosed at that point. You've got to replace the whole power station. If something happens with this Life PO4 battery or the inverter or the wires, you replace that one single part. You don't have to worry about replacing the whole thing. Again, this is for the DIY people. This is for the people that want expandable systems or want to, just play around with this stuff. If that's not you, that power station may be your best bet. Just go with that. Get something that you're going to understand and you're going to use. One of the best investments I've made in preparedness is putting a transfer switch and a small sub panel in my house. It was something that I wanted to do for a very long time, because it's the only way I can get water from my well. And when I have access to water, that means I've got unlimited water storage. I've got some containers in my home, but with this transfer switch, it allows me to use that well. It also allows me to power some other circuits in my home, so I don't have to run extension cords all over the place, whether that be from a generator outside or one of these power stations inside. It allows me to just flip a few switches, and then I've got lights in these certain areas that I chose to. Also, my furnace is a gas furnace, so if I needed to heat the home, the fan takes about 400 watt hours. So if I needed to heat the home, I could turn that on and heat up the home a little bit in an emergency. Now, this is something that some people do it themselves. They just put the switch on their breaker box. I had mine installed because I don't trust myself doing that stuff. I'm not good enough with electrical to do that myself. Cost me a couple of $1,000s to put this in. And then I can just use my EcoFlow, which hooks up to 240 volts, and I can run everything with that EcoFlow. And if that EcoFlow gets depleted the next day or during the daytime, I can use my Predator generator and I can recharge that EcoFlow using the generator. So this is something with that transfer switch, with that large power station, and with that generator, I could run this as long as I've got the fuel to run that generator, or, the solar, enough solar to recharge that EcoFlow. This really will allow me to do quite a bit more than I was able to just a couple of years ago. It probably is one of the most underrated preparedness purchases I've made. And people, honestly, just don't think about them a whole lot, but they really do make things a whole lot easier. So after 15 years of doing this, I've learned that preparedness isn't about owning the most gear. It's about owning the gear that you're actually going to use, or that is actually going to be important. Every item on this list has earned its spot because I've relied on it, I've tested it, and if I had to start over tomorrow, I would absolutely spend money on it again. And maybe more importantly, they're the items that I use all the time. They don't just sit on the shelf, they get used all the time. So these are the purchases that made the biggest difference to me. But most of these aren't the fundamentals, right? Don't buy any of these upgrades until you cover those basics first. I put together a video on the 15 items every prepper should have, and it also has a checklist that you can download with a lot of other items on it as well. You can watch that video here, but until next time, take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.